All right. We can go now. Thank you. Yes, dear devotees, we are now will enter into the Gita Pravaha. Gita Pravaha. We heard about the significance of Bhagavad Gita and then summary of Bhagavad Gita. And then first chapter, second chapter, third chapter, fourth chapter, fifth chapter, sixth chapter, seventh chapter, and eighth chapter. So we'll hear about the eighth chapter today. In the first chapter, Arjuna had reasons. Arjuna had reasons of why not to fight. And in the second chapter, Lord Krishna gave reasons of why Arjuna should fight and fight as a Nishkama Karma Yogi. So second chapter and third chapter is about Nishkama Karma Yogi and more details about the last. And fourth chapter is about the transcendental knowledge because it's with the transcendental knowledge and the lust is conquered. Okay. And at the end of the fourth chapter, after giving the transcendental knowledge, the Nishkama Karma Yoga continues in the fifth chapter. There, Lord Krishna speaks for one last time, clarifies to Arjuna that Arjuna should fight. And in that context, he speaks about Nitya Sannyasi. And after that, Lord Krishna speaks about how to attain Gunatita Sthiti, that is transcendental state. There, Lord Krishna briefly explains about Ashtanga Yoga as a way of attaining the transcendental state. But in the sixth chapter, elaboration of the Ashtanga Yoga is given. And there, the control of the mind in the Ashtanga Yoga is also given, and the destination of Ashtanga Yoga. At the end of the sixth chapter, Lord Krishna says, Yoginam api sarvesham mad bhakter antaratmana shraddhavan bhajate yoma sameyukta tamomata. So, madgater antaratmana, in the core of one's heart, whoever thinks of me dearly, then they're most intimate to me. So now that to think about Lord Krishna has to give knowledge, transcendental knowledge about himself. And that's how the seventh chapter begins, the Bhakti Yoga, about Lord. So last week, we heard about the seventh chapter, about the Lord, Bhagavad Tattva, and about the Jiva Tattva, and about the demigod worship and impersonalism. That's about the seventh chapter. At the end of the seventh chapter, Lord Krishna says, I'll take you to the slide and then you will be able to see the connection between the seventh chapter and the eighth chapter. So this was the end of the seventh chapter. Lord Krishna says at the very end, Sadi bhutadi daivam mam sadi yajnam chaye viduhu prayana kale api chamam devidur yukta chetasaham. So Lord Krishna is saying, O Arjuna, whoever knows that I am Adibhuta, Adi Daivam, Adi Yajnam, then at the time of Prayana Kala, at the time of the soul leaving the body, Prayana Kala is literally journey time, journey for the soul from one body to the next, Prayana Kala. So during that time also, then they will be in full knowledge with me, in me, fixed in my thoughts. So Lord Krishna is saying that whoever knows me as Adibhuta, Adidaivam, Adiyajnam, at the time of the death also, at the time of leaving the body also, they will be fixed in my thoughts. In other words, not just at the time of leaving the body. It is at the time of the leaving body also, even at the time of the leaving the body. So something that is not present throughout the life would not come just at the moment of leaving the body. One who has understood the Lord as Adibhutam, Adidaivam, Adiyajnam, we will know in detail what those terms are. But one who understands the Lord in this tattva, in Bhagavad Tattva, and remains like that, lives a life in that tattva, then for them, even at the time of death, they will be fixed in my thoughts. Because the time of death is very difficult and challenging time. So something that we could not do when we are alive, it's very difficult to do it when we when we're leaving the body in those difficult, challenging times. So that's one thing, dear devotees. In this bhakti, our attachment to the Lord, our loving attachment to the Lord, each day is an opportunity for us. Each day is an opportunity for us. Each moment is an opportunity for us to have that loving attachment to the Lord. Because He is the only Priti Vastu. And we have that eternal loving relationship with the Lord that is present eternally. So every day, each day and each moment is an opportunity for that loving relationship with the Lord, to revive that loving relationship with the Lord. And the death may come anytime. Padam padam yatvi padam. So because we had this opportunity of having this loving relationship with the Lord in loving service, then even in difficult moments, challenging moments, this very same attachment to the Lord will come to our rescue in the challenging moments, in the difficult moments. And the most difficult moment is Prayana Kali, when we are leaving the body. So each day is simply is meant to cultivate that loving relationship with the Lord through service. And then even at the time of the death, then with the mercy of the Lord, we will be fixed in the loving thoughts of the Lord. So that was the last shloka that Lord Krishna said. Sadi bhutam adi daivam chamam sadi yajnam che vidhu. So now Lord Krishna said this in the 7th chapter. So 8th chapter starts with Arjuna asking questions about each element there. Who is Sadi Bhutam? Who is Sadi Daivam? Like that. So on that note, that will be the transition to the 8th chapter. That's Akshara Brahma Yoga. So in this 8th chapter, we will hear about these topics. Arjuna's questions of each element there, and about who is Brahma, what is karma, who is Adibhuta, Adidaiva, Adiyajna, and Adiyatma. And what is Prayana Kala? So there was the last question of Arjuna, Prayana Kala. So Lord Krishna explains, he gives answers, brief answers to this terminology here, and then explains elaboratively regarding the Prayana Kala. Prayana Kala is the death, time of death, when the soul leaves the body. So there we will hear about what happens to the soul after leaving the body. In the very beginning, we had these questions, right? Why should we know Bhagavad Gita? These were few questions. So all the questions in regards to soul leaving the body, actually they come in this 8th chapter and also in the 15th chapter. So here, what happens after the soul leaves the body, that we will know. And what should one do so one can attain Krishna after leaving the body? That also we will hear. So in that context, what will be the destination of those actually how to attain Krishna after leaving the body? There are 2 ways that the Lord explains. One is through Ashtanga Yoga and the other one is through Ananya Bhakti. And after that, what is the destination of an Ashtanga Yogi who is successful, and the destination of an Ashtanga Yogi who is not successful? What would be his destination when he leaves the body? That is also explained at the end. And the destination of a devotee. These are explained. And in this context, a difference between material world and spiritual world is also explained. So these are the topics that we are going to hear today, dear devotees. Yeah. So now we will enter into this 8th chapter. What I will do is, I will share the PDF version. Let me bring that one. So that's the PDF version. This is 8th chapter. So now Arjuna is asking the questions. Lord Krishna said that, right? Arjuna Uvacha Kim Tad Brahma Kim Adhyatmam Kim Karma Purushottama Adibhutam Cha Kim Proktam Adidaivam Kim Uchyate Adiyajnah Katam Kotra Dehe Asmin Madhusudana Prayana Kale Cha Katham Jneyosi Niyatatma Bhim. Arjuna is asking, Krishna, Kim Tad Brahma? Who is Brahma? Kim Adhyatmam? Who is Adhyatmam? Kim Karma? What is Karma? Oh Purushottama, can you please answer? Who is Adibhutam? Who is Adidaivam? Who is Adiyajna? Adiyajna Katam Ko Atra? Who is Adiyajna? Dehe Asmin Madhusudana. How can one identify this Adiyajna in the body, O Madhusudana? Prayana Kale Cha Katam Jneyosi Niyatatmabhi. And what is this Prayana Kale? So these are the questions from Arjuna. And Lord Krishna answers those questions. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Aksharam Brahma Paramam Swabhavo Adhyatmam Uchyate Bhuta Bhavodbhavakaro Visarga Karma Samnitaha Adibhutam Ksharo Bhavaha Purushascha Adiyajnoham Yevatra Dehe Deha Pratambara. Lord Krishna, Bhagavan speaks. He's answering one after the other. Who is that Brahman? Brahman is that indestructible, transcendental, living entity. Aksharam Brahma Paramam. That Brahma means Aksharam Paramam, the transcendental living entity. Indestructible, transcendental living entity. That's Brahman. And who is Adhyatma? Swabhavo Adhyatma Muchyate. Swabhava of the Jiva, the nature of the Jiva is Adhyatma. And Bhuta Bhavodbhavakaro Visarga Karma Samnitaha. The thing that is responsible for the Jiva to take the bodies again and again, that thing is called karma. That's exactly what Bhagavan said. Karma is fruitive activities leading to transmigration into bodies. But how beautiful is this? Bhuta bhavotbhava karo visarga karma samnitaha. That thing that causes the living entity to take the birth again and again. That thing is karma. And what is adibhutam? Adibhutam ksharo bhavaha. Ksharo bhavaha. The one that constantly changes. The constantly changing physical world. Prakriti is adibhutam. Purushascha adidaivatam. Adidaivatam is the Purusha, the Virat Purusha, with the demigods and the planets. The sum total of all these demigods together, Adidaivatam, that's Virat Purusha. Adiyajnohamevatra. Who is Adiyajna? It's Aham, me, Paramatma. Adiyajna is the enjoyer of all sacrifices. Dehe deha britam varam. And how to know that Adiyajna is how to know the presence of Adiyajna, the Paramatma in the body, and the inspiration that a jiva receives for the performance of sacrifice. By that, one knows the presence of Adiyajna in the body. How beautiful is that? The inspiration that one receives from the heart to perform sacrifice indicates the presence of Adiyajna in one's heart. This reminds me, here, even for us to get this inspiration to perform a sacrifice is because of the presence of the Lord within. In Daksha Yajna, the Daksha Yajna, in first time Daksha Yajna happened and Mother Sati was insulted and she burnt herself in the yogic fire. And the next time when Daksha had this goat head put on, then Brahma came and, Bhairava, Lord Shiva was pacified and Daksha gets this goat head and the yajna goes on second time. And during that yajna, everybody, all the priests there, they were also reciting the mantras. And Daksha was also reciting the mantras. And after some time, Lord Vishnu appears there. He appears there, Lord Vishnu. And there, Sukadeva Goswami beautifully describes one thing. In that arena, sacrificial arena, the Brahmanas, ordinary Brahmanas were there, Daksha was there, Lord Shiva was there, and Brahma was there too. Also, the wives of all the Yajnik Brahmanas were also there. All of them were there. When the Lord appeared there, each one of them, according to their position and their realization, they started offering prayers. So there, Sukadeva Goswami says, when the Lord appeared there first, it was the Lord in the heart that is present in each one of them that had to inspire from within to offer a prayer for the words to come out. And when the prayers were offered by each one of them, Brahma's prayers were different, Lord Shiva's prayers were different, and the ordinary Brahmans that were there in the yajna, their prayers were different, Daksha's prayers were different, and the wife of the Yajnik Brahman prayers were different there. All of them were different. And each one of their prayers were inspired by the Lord in the heart, in each of them. So a prayer also cannot be generated from within. without the mercy and the help of the Lord within. Not even the prayer. Not even the prayer, not even the inspiration to do anything for the Lord. And this also reminds us of our Dhruva Maharaj, right? When Lord Narayana appeared, he couldn't utter a word. But the Lord mercifully touched Panchajanya on Dhruva Maharaj, and then he could recite the prayers. It is true that the Lord is pervading as Paramatma in every atom of this material world. And that is why all this jada, all these jada vastus, all these material elements, and they are able to retain their nature. Fire as fire, water as water. So that is also because of the presence of Bhagavan in each atom. That the dharma, the nature of the material element is retained. Not only the nature of the material element, even for us, for the jivas. For us, also, even for a prayer to be generated, even for an inspiration, for a sacrifice to Bhagavan, everything is just because of the presence and mercy of the Lord. So it is to be understood that if there is any thought of Bhagavan or any inspiration towards the Bhagavan or seva for Bhagavan is happening, it is understood that it is to be understood that it is only because of the mercy of Bhagavan. So that is how we know Adi Yajna is present in our body. And the final question was, how to know you at the time of death, O Purushottama? That was Arjuna's question to Lord Krishna. So now entering into the second topic of what happens at the time of death. So more details about Prayana Kale. Prayana Kale, the transit time. What happens at the time of death? Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tyajate ante kalevaram tam tam evaiti kaunteya sada tadbhava bhavitaha. Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tyajate ante kalevaram. Tyajate ante kalevaram. Tyajate is letting it go. So when one leaves the body, at the time of leaving the body, quitting the body, whatever bhava is in smaran, that is whatever thought or meditation is there for the jiva at the time of quitting the body, tam tam evaiti kaunteya sada tad bhava bhavita. O kaunteya, without fail, one would attain that bhavam, that thought, that nature. So whatever contemplation or thought is present at the time of quitting this body, then the jiva would attain that particular contemplation of that object. So whatever we think at the time of death, that's where we go. That's what we become. That's the nature's law. Krishna's law through the nature. Then the next thing is, so if that is the case, how can we attain Krishna? How can we go to Krishna after leaving the body? Antakale cha mam eva smaran muktva kalevaram yah prayati samadbhavam yati nasti atra samshayaha. These promising words of Bhagavan in Bhagavad Gita are so assuring. Yati na asti atra samshayaha. In this, there is no element of doubt. What is it? Antakale cha mam eva smaran muktva kalevaram yah prayati samadbhav. Antakalecha, at the time of, the final moment. Mam eva smaran muktva kalevaram. Whoever quits the body with my smarana, remembering me, yah prayati samadbhavam, they will attain me. And in this, there is no doubt, says Lord Krishna. So at the time of leaving body, when one thinks of Lord Krishna, then he would attain Lord Krishna's abode. This smaran muktva kalaivaram. Generally, we hear smarana means thinking, right? But in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Srila Rupa Goswami gives the details, the depth of that smaran. There are different dashas, Shravana dasa, Apanna dasa, Smarana dasa, like that. Different stages, different stages and degrees of remembrance. Smarana dasa is deep remembrance of Lord Krishna. So when one is so much absorbed in the thoughts of Krishna at the time of quitting this body, then one would obtain the very nature of the Lord. Samadbhavam, the very nature of the Lord. One would attain Krishna. And that's why Lord Krishna says, Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mam anusmarayudyacha mai arpita mano buddhir mami vaishyasi asamshayaha. Again, mama eva ishyasi asamshayaha. You will come to me with no doubt. There is no doubt about this. So, since Lord Krishna said, whoever remembers me has Krishna Smarana at the time of quitting the body, then they would attain Krishna. That's why Lord Krishna says, that's why Tasmat. So what to do? To come to that state, to come to that point of remembering the Lord even at the time of death. That was the whole starting theme of Lord Krishna, right? Before he started the 8th chapter. Prayana kale chapi mam, even at the time of the death. So that's what Lord Krishna is saying now. How to come to that point of thinking about the Lord, even at the time of death. Leaving the body is the most disturbing and turmoiling time in life. Just changing the house, moving to a different house, moving to a different locality, moving to a different country. Sometimes changing the car also. There can be little disturbance. What to speak of leaving the body? Leaving the body is leaving the body and everyone related to this body, leaving everybody related to this body and everything related to this body, leaving this whole world that is related to the body. Even in those times, how much attachment should a person have for Lord Krishna to be attached to the thought of the Lord, but nothing else about this world or no one about this world. So that doesn't come just like that. In those most challenging time of leaving the body. For that, Lord Krishna is saying, that's why sarveshu kaleshu mam anusmarana yudhyacha. To attain that great attachment, that state of great attachment to me, so as to remember me even when quitting the body, one should sarveshu at all times, sarveshu kaleshu at all times, Mam anusmara yutyacha. One has to do two things at all times. Lord Krishna, Bhagavan is saying. One is anusmara. They have to think of me from within. And yudhyacha. Here it is Arjuna doing his yuddha. And for us, all of us, doing our dharma outside. Dharma outside, seva outside. How is that possible? Always think of the Lord within and do for the Lord outside. Mai arpita manobuddhir. You buy arpita is a total submission. Submission of one's mind and intelligence onto the Lord. So mind on the Lord, intelligence in the Lord. That will help us do the anusmara. And with this anusmara inside, with the smarana of the Lord inside, doing for the Lord outside. So these two things should constantly go on. Not just one among them, not just only anusmara. Not just thinking only. Because we cannot just think and sit in the corner of a room and spend the whole day, whole time. We do things. While doing things outside, we think of Krishna inside. So these two things should happen always. Tasmat sarveshu kareshu. Abhyasa yoga yuktena chetasa nanya paramam purusham divyam yati partanu chintayan. These words are sarveshu kaleshu and abhyasa yoga yuktena. So this anusmara, thinking of the Lord inside and doing for the Lord outside, it should be done always. That's what Lord Krishna said. And for that, the Lord so mercifully says, abhyasa yoga yuktena. It's not so natural for a conditioned jiva to always think of Krishna within and do for Krishna outside. That too all the time, not natural. So that's why abhyasa yoga, sadhana bhakti, abhyasa yoga. Abhyasa yoga yuktena. With practice, come to the state of chetasa na anyagamina. Come to this a state of undeviated attention on me. Then paramam purusham divyam yati partanu chintayan. By such constant thinking, one would attain me. Paramam purusham divyam yati partha, o partha, anuchintayan. By that constant thinking. Actually, anuchintayan is constant thinking. Yes, that is one meaning. But dear devotees, a conditioned jiva, what kind of constant thinking can a conditioned jiva do? So conditioned with the modes, right? So that's why anuchintayan, the different meaning is, anu is to follow the great souls. To follow the great souls. The chintayan of the great souls. Unless we know how to think of the Lord, what to think of the Lord, and how to constantly think of the Lord, we cannot just come up with our own mind and intervention and formula. But anuchintayan is to follow in the footsteps of those great souls who are situated on that platform. Then everything else will be possible. Abhyasa yoga. Even to do the abhyasa yoga also. Even to do the sadhana bhakti also. We just don't do the sadhana bhakti just because it is said in Shastra. That strength is not enough for us. Just because it is said in Shastra, I do sadhana bhakti. Because it is said in Shastra, the knowledge is there and it is an authentic information. Wonderful. But even to do the sadhana bhakti, it has to come as an instruction from a purified soul. It has to come as an instruction from a purified soul. So the purity, the strength in the purity of that soul, which comes as instruction to us, that will make us do the sadhana. The strength for our sadhana bhakti comes from the instruction of Shri Guru, the internal energy of the Lord. We don't have the strength to do the Abhyasa Yoga. So, yeah. So Lord Krishna is saying, yes, by such constant thinking, one attains me. Now we just heard a little more details about that constant thinking. And how can that constant thinking happen to such a point that one attains Bhagavan? So that's about quitting the body. What happens after quitting the body? So, okay, when one thinks of Bhagavan, when one is thinking of Krishna, then they would attain Krishna, go to Krishna Loka. That is wonderful. Then how about those who are not thinking of Krishna? Then whatever they are thinking, whatever they are attached to, that's what they would become. And the other example is this. Say if somebody is so much, very much attached to laziness, lethargy, sleep, so much of tamoguna. And during his lifetime, if he has attached so much to sleep, to inertia, see, like especially the drug addicts, they just want to stay intoxicated, just sleep. And then boom, if they have to die. What are they attached to the whole life? Their nature is so predominantly tamoguna. Then what would they become? A polar bear that can sleep for 6 months uninterrupted. Like that. So whatever mode is predominant in a jiva, that mode will continue in the next body. And in specific, whatever thought is predominant in that specific mode, then the jiva would attain that. So in that example, that man who is very much attached in the tamoguna sleep would become a polar bear. And somebody who is really attached to sense gratification. In the Shastra, this example is given. If somebody is really attached to sense gratification, thinking of women like that, in the next janma, they would become a woman like that. So whatever mind thinks of is attached more, whatever it is attached to, then the next body will be accordingly. So that is the transmigration of the soul based upon one's consciousness when we quit the body. So Lord Krishna has explained this. What happens after quitting the body and what should one do in order to attain him, to come to his loka. Now, as a continuation of what can be done, what to do in order to attain Krishna at the time of death. What are different ways? So the general understanding the Lord gave is whoever thinks of me at the time of death. So how can one think of him? While tasma sarveshu kaleshu mam anusmara. So at all times think of me. How can one think of Lord Krishna at all times? So the detail of that is being given in the next one. Because only when one can think of Lord Krishna at all times while doing for him outside, then he would be able to think of the Lord at the time of death. So how can one think of the Lord? At all times. Two processes the Lord is explaining here. One, he mentions about Dhyana Yoga, and the next one is about the Bhakti Yoga. So first one is, Lord Krishna is saying, so Arjuna, one can think of me like this. Kavim Puranam Anushasitaram Anoraniyam Samanusmaredyaham Sarvasya Dhataram Achintya Rupam Aditya Varnam Tamasa Parastat. These Dhyana yogis or Ashtanga yogis, their goal is also to attain Paramatma. To attain Paramatma in their heart. Their goal is also like that. So they think of Paramatma like this. They think of Lord like this. Like, he is Kavim. He's omniscient. And he's Puranam. He has no beginning. And he is Anushashitaram. Shashinchadam. He's the controller. And Anor Aniyamsam. He is the smaller than the smallest. Anusmaredyaha. Anor Aniyamsam Anusmaredyaha. Sarvasya Dhataram. Dhataram is giving support, maintaining. He's a maintainer of everything. Achintya Rupam. He has inconceivable form. Aditya Varnam. He is luminous, self-effulgent. Tamasah Parastat. And he's transcendental to this world of Tama. Transcendental to the mode of ignorance. He's luminous. So like this, a yogi, a dhyana yogi, would think of the Lord. This is how his anusmarana goes on. And what does he do outside? Because Lord Krishna says, Tasma sarveshu kaleshu mam anusmarana yudhyacha, right? So for Ashtanga yogis, thinking of the Lord like that inside and doing their Ashtanga yoga outside, what do they do? Prayana kale manasa chalena bhaktya yukto yoga balena chaivam bruvor madhye pranamaveshya samyak satam param purusham upaiti divyam sarvadvarani samyamya manohrudi nirudhyacha mudni atyatmanah pranam astito yoga dharana. The Lord is explaining the yoga process here in Ashtanga Yoga. Prayana kale manasa achelena. During the prayana kale, when the soul is ready to quit the body, manasa achelena. The mind with no deviation, with all steadiness, bhaktya yukta yoga balena chaiva bruvor madhye pranamaveshya samyak. Their pranavayu, Ashtanga yogi, with a very steady consciousness, they bring their pranavayu, their life air, to the Agna Chakra. That is Bruvor Madhye. In between their eyebrows, there is Agna Chakra. Satam Param Purusham Upaiti Divyam. In this way, they exit this body, attaining a Param Purusham. And in that process, what they do is, while they are bringing up the life airs to Agna Chakra, Sarvadvarani Samyamya Manohridi Nirudhyacha Mudni Adhyatmanah Pranam Astito Yoga Dharanam. Sarvadvarani Samyamya Manohridi Nirudhyacha. They have to close all the holes of the body. Because for the life air to exit through the Agna Chakra in between the eyebrows, all the doors of the body should be closed. So this is the mechanical process that the Lord is describing, how the soul quits the body through the Agna Chakra. And what does the yogi do? Om iti ekaksharam brahma vyaharan mam anusmaran yah prayati tyajan deham sayati paramam gatim. So Ashtanga Yogi, as he recites actually this word ekaksharam brahma om, it has 3 syllables. A, O, M. It's not just the air that comes through the vocal cords, om. No, it has 3 stages. So the pranavayu, life air, is elevated from the bottom chakra, Muladhara chakra. So the initial part of the the very initial part starts at the Muladhara chakra. And by the time all the chakras, it touches all the chakras and comes to the higher chakras, to the Agna chakra. So the yogi, while uttering the Omkara like that, closing all the doors of the Deha, of this body, brings up the life air to this Agna chakra and then quits this body reciting the Omkara mantra. Paramam Purusham Upaiti Divyam. In this way, he reaches the Paramam Purusham. This is how Lord Krishna is explaining that how Ashtanga yogis attain him. This is all true. And this is how all the yogis in the Kruta Yuga, when they went to the forest, all of them, they have done Ashtanga Yoga, and all of them, they have attained Paramam Purusham Upaiti Divyam. Either the Paramatma, and those who wanted to just merge in the Brahma Jyoti, they followed the same thing and merged into Brahma Jyoti. So that was a typical one, Ashtanga Yoga. And this is the process, but a process of Kruta Yuga, not in the Kali Yuga. Nevertheless, this is how an Ashtanga Yogi thinks of me, Arjuna, and this is how they do their yoga to attain me. Okay, Bhagavan, this is about the Dhyana Yoga. Then what would a Bhakti Yogi think, Bhagavan? Is he going to think Kavim Puranam Manushasitaram? Not that it is not wrong. Not that it is not wrong. Of course, the Lord is Kavim Puranam Manushasitaram Anoraniyam. Yes, all of them is right. But Bhakti Yogi, Sharanagata Bhakta Mukhya Lakshana. Bhakti to Bhagavan, the chief quality of a bhakti, chief characteristic of bhakti is Sharanagati. Sharanagata Bhakta Mukhya Lakshana. So what do the devotee think about the Lord? It is Rakshisyati iti Vishwaso Goptratve Varnam Tada Atmanikshepana Karpanye. Right? Anukulyasya Sankalpam Pratikulasya Varchana. Rakshisyati iti Vishwaso Goptratve Varnam Tada Atmanikshepana Karpanye Shadvidi Sharanagati. This is what a bhakta, a Sharanagata bhakta thinks of the Lord. Not so vague like, oh, Lord is omniscient, Lord is beginningless, oh, he is the controller of everything. All of that is true. But a bhakta of the Bhagavan, a Sharanagata bhakta of a Bhagavan is so close to the Lord. So close to the Lord that his thought is also totally dependent on his relationship with Bhagavan. All his thoughts are Anukulasya Sankalpam Pratikulasya Varchanam. Bhagavan, what do you want now? I would want to do only that is pleasing to you. I do not want to do anything that is not pleasing to you. And yes, Krishna, you are there for me all the time. And yes, you will. Rakshisyati iti vishwaso. You will protect me, Krishna. Such intimate, dependent thoughts about Bhagavan. Atmanikshepana karpanye. Bhagavan, how abundant is your mercy that you have accepted such a fallen soul, such a fallen, unqualified soul to do your seva. That is such an intimate presence with Bhagavan. So different from, oh Lord, yes, you are Kavim, Puranam, Anushashitaram. That is all true, but very distant. Sharanagata Bhakta, when he's thinking of Bhagavan in Dainya, that's very intimate with the Lord and very close. The Bhakta is in the presence of the Lord. So those will be the thoughts of a Bhakta, a Sharanagata Bhakta of Bhagavan in Bhakti Yoga. And for a Bhakti Yoga, a Sharanagata Bhakti Yoga, here Ashtanga Yoga yogi is thinking, oh yes, the Lord, you are the controller of everything. Anushashitaram, you are the smaller than the smallest. But the Sharanagata Bhakta is so much in the presence of the Lord, with the Lord. Premanjana churita bhakti vilochanena shanta sadaiva hridayeshu vilokayanti yam shama sundaram achintya gunaswarupam govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. The Bhakta is with Bhagavan, seeing Bhagavan, being with Bhagavan. It's very close to Bhagavan. So for a Bhakti yogi, not only the thoughts of the Bhakta, of Sharanagata Bhakta, are in those mellows, but the Bhakta is actually in the presence of the Lord. Is not just preparing to have darshan of the Paramatma in the Lord by following all these mechanical processes. It's not like that. For a Bhakti yogi, the process and the goal is the same. It is with Krishna, for Krishna. Kali Kali Namarupe, Krishna Avatara. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he says, Ki bojane, ki shayane, ki baja garane, Aharnisha Chinta Krishna Balaha Vadane. Gauranga Mahaprabhu has brought Bhagavan so close to us. The Lord is in the Nama and he is instructing Aharnisha Chinta Krishna Balaha Vadane. The Lord is present in this Nama, so always chant the Nama and always think of the Lord. So this is what a Bhakti Yogi thinks and what Bhakti Yogi does. The whole Bhakti Yoga process is with the Lord, for the Lord. The process and the goal is the same. So a Bhakti Yogi is in intimate thoughts with Bhagavan, in the presence of Bhagavan. That's the potency of Bhakti Yoga. So that's about Bhakti Yoga. So after Lord Krishna explained about how Ashtanga Yogi, Dhyana Yogi thinks and how he does the Ashtanga Yoga process, now Lord Krishna was explaining, he explains about Bhakti Yoga. He says, Ananya Cheta Hasatatam Yomam Smarati Nityasaham Tasyaham Sulabha Partha Nityayuktasya Yoginaham. Ananya Cheta Hasatatam Yomam Smarati Nityashaha. When the chitta satatam, always ananya, uh, with no other deviation. When the chitta is single pointed attention is on me, yomam smarati nityashaha. When one's mind is in my thought, undeviatingly, nityasaha, at all times, everywhere, nityasaha, nitya, and aharnisha chinta Krishna. It's always, not just 2 hours a day of japa and done. No, not a little bit here and there. It is nityasaha, because that is the eternal truth, nityasaha. So Lord Krishna is saying, after explaining the Ashtanga Yoga, he said, a yogi, Ashtanga yogi thinks like this, and he performs his Ashtanga Yoga. So by closing all the doors of the, all the holes of the doors of the body, then he lives a life air, and then through Ajna Chakra, then he quits the body. This is all by Ashtanga Yoga. But for a Bhakti Yoga, because a Bhakti Yoga is Ananya Chetaha Sadatam Yomam Smarati Nityasaha. Bhakti Yoga means Ananya Chetaha Sadatam. Yomam Smarati Nityasaha. Always Nitya Krishna Smarana. Undeviated Nitya Krishna Smarana. That is Bhakti Yoga. That's what Lord Krishna is saying. For them, Tasyaham Sulabha Partha. For them, I am very easily attainable, Partha. Because they are Nitya Yuktasya Yoginaha. Because they are constantly engaged in my devotional service. How beautifully Lord is distinguishing these two, the Ashtanga Yoga and this Bhakti Yoga, and quickly saying, okay, Partha, I have explained about the Ashtanga Yoga. Okay, but please listen. I'll tell you one more, the easiest way. Tasya aham sulabha Partha. In this Bhakti Yoga, because they are constantly engaged in loving devotional service to me with their undeviated attention, I am very quickly available, very easily available, Partha. Mam upetya punarjanma dukkhalayam ashashvatam napnuvanti mahatmanah samsiddhim paramam gataha. So in this way, one who attains me, Mam upetya punarjanma dukkhalayam ashashvatam napnuvanti. After attaining me, there is no punarjanma into this dukkhalayam asashvatam world, in this world with full of miseries and constantly changing. Because these Mahatmana samsiddhim paramam gataha, because they have attained paramam gata, highest destination, especially these bhaktas, personal service to me. That's the highest destination for the bhakti yogis. So in this way, for a bhakti yogi and an Ashtanga yogi who, if at all they happen to be successful and wanted to and attained Brahma Samsparsha, that is Paramatma realization. This is how they enter into the spiritual realm, Mamupetya Punarjanma. And once they enter into the spiritual world, Punarjanma Naiti, into this Dukkhalayam Asashvatam. They will not come back to this miserable and temporary world. So, having said that, now Lord Krishna is making the transition to a different, to give a little more details about this material world and spiritual world. What is he saying? Abrahma bhuvana lokaham punaravartino arjuna mamupetya tu kaunteya punarjanma na vidyate. So Arjuna, see, one who attains me, they don't have to come back to this world of misery and ever-changing. But Brahma Bhuvana Loka Punaravartino Arjuna. All these planets starting from the Brahmaloka. In all these planets of this material world, Punara Avartino, there will be Punarjanma. They will have to take rebirth. Mamupityetu kaunteya punarjanmana vidyate. But if they come to me, they don't have to take birth again. Yeah. Only when somebody thinks of the Lord at the time of death, then they go to the spiritual world and they don't have to come back to this world of misery and constant change. But when one cannot think of the Lord, when one is not greatly attached to the Lord at the time of death, then they will have to come back to this material world and they have to take rebirth. Okay. So that's about what happens after one quits this material body, what happens after death. And now, actually, the continuation of this is here. Lord Krishna was saying that Ashtanga Yogi, he made with this mechanical processes, with this yoga, thinking of me, he quits the body. So even in that Krita Yuga also, when they were doing Ashtanga yoga, if they were successful, then they would exit from the Agna Chakra and they would enter into the Brahma Jyoti as they desired. Agnir Jyotir aha Shuklaha Shanmasa Uttarayanam Tatra Prayata Gachanti Brahma Brahma Vido Janaha. So if an Ashtanga Yogi, if he's successful in lifting his life airs up to exit from this body, then he would reach higher destination. So how do we know that an Ashtanga Yogi is successful? When he's able to, by the way, Ashtanga Yogis, they have this ability to quit the body at a particular time. If you remember, Bhishma Pitamaha, he was on the bed of arrows. He has Ichha Mrityu. He could leave the body at his own will. So he was waiting for Uttarayana. Because this is the reason. Agnir Jyotir Aha Shukla Shanmasa Uttarayanam. Tatra Prayata Gachanti. So when one quits the body during this time, in the path of the light, when Agnir, when the fire god is active, Jyotir, Aha is during the daytime, Shukla Paksha of the month. One is Krishna Paksha and one is Shukla Paksha. So in the Shukla Paksha. And Shanmasa Uttarayanam, the first, when the sun is in the northern hemisphere, that is Uttarayanam. So these are the specific timings in that 6 months, and it has to be in the daytime, like that. So if a yogi is able to quit the body in those specific timings, as mentioned here, then they would reach their goal of merging into Brahma Jyoti or going to the planet of Vaikuntha, like that, if they are attached to the Vishnu form. But if an Ashtanga Yogi is not that successful and is attached to things of this world, then what happens to him? Dhumo ratris tadha Krishnaha Shanmasa Dakshinayanam Tatra Chandramasam Jyotir Yogi Prapya Nivartate. They quit their body during dark time, path of darkness, during night time, and Tada Krishna Paksha of the month, or in Dakshinayanam, when the sun is in the southern hemisphere, revolving. in the southern hemisphere. So this is called path of darkness. During these dark times, when a yogi quits his body, then they would go to lower the planetary system, not the transcendental realm, but to Chandraloka or Pitraloka, to these material destinations. They stay there for some time and then they have to come back to the earth again. All this, after doing all this Ashtanga Yoga and Tapasya, again stay there for some time and come back again. As opposed to the Bhakti Yoga, where Lord Krishna is saying that it is the easiest way to come to Krishna Loka. So that's the difference between Ashtanga Yoga and Bhakti Yoga will come soon. We'll come to Bhakti Yoga. But in this context, Lord Krishna is describing about the material world and spiritual world. When the Lord said that anybody other than who comes to me, everybody else will have rebirth. And because he's saying that he will have to take rebirth in this material world, now the Lord is giving description about the material world and comparing it with spiritual world. We are in material world, dear devotees. We are on planet Earth, Bhumandala. 14 planetary systems are there. And ours is the smallest universe. And there are many material universes like this. And it is said that the material world is only 1/4 of the spiritual world. So now we are hearing about that material world. Sahasrayuga paryantam aharyad brahmano viduhu ratrim yuga sahasrantam teho ratra vido janaha. Lord Krishna is giving the time duration in this material world. You know, for each Brahmanda, there is a Brahma. For our Brahmanda, for our Brahma, there are 4 heads. Okay. And as we have day and night, Brahmaji, he also has his day and night. And his daytime is in trillions and trillions and trillions of years. The daytime. For us, it is 24 hours. But for him, it's trillions of years. So to give an idea of what the time frame of this material world, Lord Krishna is saying, Sahasra Yuga Paryantam Aharyad Brahmano Vidu Ratrim Yuga Sahasrantam Teho Ratra Vido Janaha. Sahasra is 1,000. 1,000 Divya Yugas will make one day of Brahma. And the very same 1,000 Divya Yugas will make the night of Brahma. Because one day of Brahma has 14 Manus, 14 Manvantaras. And there are 17 Divya Yugas in each Manvantara. So if we calculate 71 times 14, it comes to something like 90 plus 94, something like that. But when we add the Sandhi Kala also for each Divya Yuga, it comes to total of 1,000 Divya Yugas. That is one day of Brahma. And same is the time for the night of Brahma. Okay. So that's about the time of this material world. And how does living beings come into existence? And how do they unmanifest? Avyaktad Vyaktaya sarvaha prabhavanti aharagame ratriyagame praliyante tatraiva vyakta samyake. As we have daytime and nighttime, Brahma also has that. After Brahma wakes up early in the morning, in the nighttime, the devastation happens. We have 14 planetary systems, right? So Bhuloka, Bhuvarloka, Suraloka, Tapoloka. Maharloka, Janaloka, Tapoloka. Maharloka, Janaloka, and then Brahmaloka. So partial devastation happens in the night time of Brahma. In the daytime, all the Manvantaras are there, all the 14 Manus are there, the ruling is happening, everything. In the night time, the partial devastation happens up until Tapoloka. So the Lord is explaining about that particular thing here. And after that partial devastation, at the end of the night of Brahma, the day of the Brahma begins. That's when Brahma also gets up from his sleep. And he looks around. He has to recreate everything. So he starts his prayers in the morning. And then the Lord gives him the memory of how to do the creation, the secondary creation again. And he starts the creation again, like that. So that is the daily routine for Brahma. Every day getting up in the morning, praying, and the Lord has to bless, and he does his service of a secondary creation like that. And that's what the Lord is explaining here. In the morning, all the jivas that were unmanifest will manifest. And when the night falls, when Brahma night falls, then they're all merged into the unmanifest state again. And so this continues. This is the story of this material world. Bhutagrama Sayevayam Bhutva Bhutva Praliyate Ratriyagame Avasha Partha Prabhavati Aharagame. This is our story, dear devotees. Story of the jivas. The jivas that are trapped in this material world. Bhutva Bhutva Praliyate. Again and again and again this happens. Bhutagramasya evayam. Bhutva Bhutva Praliyate. As the day arrives, again they manifest. And as the night of the Brahma arrives, helplessly, they are all annihilated. And again in the day of Brahma, they manifest. Very similar to our material bodies are Bhutva Bhutva Praliyate in this Brahmanda. And our mental bodies are Punah Punah Charvita Charvinanam. This is, we are busy with this in this Brahmanda. Material bodies with Bhutva Bhutva Praliyate. And the mental bodies with Punah Punah Charvita Charvanana. This is material world. And now Lord Krishna says, I'll tell you about the spiritual world now. Parastasmattu bhavonyo avyakto vyaktat sanatanaha yassa sarveshu bhuteshu nashyatsu na vinashyati. As opposed to whatever I have said, O Partha, parastasmattu bhavo. Yet there is another unmanifest nature, that para. Vyakto avyaktat sanatana, that is eternally present. Eternally present, unmanifest nature that is supreme and is never annihilated. Yassa sarveshu bhuteshu nashyatsu na vinashyati. Even when all these bhutas here, bhutva bhutva praliyate, even when all these living entities are being annihilated in this material world, even then there is yet another truth that is eternal, unmanifest and supreme, and that is always present even when this annihilation and manifestation is happening. And that is avyakto akshareti yukta stam ahu paramam gatim yam prapyana nivartante tattamam paramam mama. Welcome to my abode, the supreme abode. Avyakto akshara iti yuktas. So this abode of mine is unmanifest, avyakta. Akshara is infallible. Tam ahu paramam gatim, supreme destination. Yam prapyana nivartante tadhama paramam mama. Having attained this, one would never return. Yam prapya na nivartante, will not return. Tadhama paramam mama. Once who attains my destination, my abode, tadhama paramam mama. So this is my abode, spiritual abode, as opposed to the material world that I was describing. Bhutva bhutva praliyate. Purushasya parah partham bhaktya lapyastvananyayam. Yasyantastani bhutani yena sarvam idam tatam. Purushasya parah partha, O Partha. This Purusha Sapara, the Supreme Person, Bhaktya Labhyastu Ananyaya, he is attained by bhakti. By bhakti, Ananya Bhakti. Yasyanta stani bhutani. Yasya anta stani bhutani. All the bhutani, all the living entities are, Yasya anta stani is present in him. They are all present within him. Yena sarvam idam tatam. He is all pervading. So the Lord has explained about his abode, the supreme abode, and he's saying, Bhaktya labhyastva ananya. With ananya bhakti, one can attain this abode of the Lord. And the Lord is, he's present in everything, and he's all pervading. Such a difference. And the Lord is describing about this material world. Bhuta grama sayevayam bhutva bhutva praliyate ratri agame avasha partha. Avasha. Helplessly, all these living entities are being annihilated when the night of the Brahma falls. And now the scene changes. I will tell you about a different world, the spiritual world. This world is avyakto akshara. This is paramam gatim, supreme abode. And yes, one who has ananya bhakti, then purushasya parah partha, they will attain the Lord with this ananya bhakti. And yam prapyana nivartante tadhama paramam mama, one who attains my abode, then they would not come back to this miserable material world. Such contrast, material world, spiritual world. Like this dark sky, the spiritual world is like a fulgent sun. So Lord Krishna, and this is how he gives the information, the knowledge about material and spiritual world, as he was describing how a yogi and a successful Ashtanga yogi or a Bhakti yogi, only they, whoever comes to Lord Krishna, then they would not come back to this material world. They will not have Punarjanma, but everybody else will have Punarjanma into this material world, saying that he has described about material world and gave information about the spiritual world. And after that, as we have just described, what happens to Ashtanga Yogi? If he's successful, then he goes to the Brahmajyoti or the spiritual world. If he's not, then he stays within this material world. This is about Ashtanga Yoga. There is a possibility of success and no success, both of them. In Kali Yuga, Ashtanga Yoga is out of question. For somebody to actually make it to Brahmajyoti and Paramvyoma, spiritual world, Ashtanga Yoga is not the way in Kali Yuga. It was in Krita Yuga. If we hear about any yoga, any siddhis, etc., that is few of the siddhis that can be present in the preliminary stages of Ashtanga Yoga. Only up until then. But to attain this eternal destination in this Kali Yuga, it's not through Ashtanga Yoga. So, so these are the destination of a successful Ashtanga Yoga that was in Krita Yoga. And if not successful, then they would end up in this miserable Brahmanda. At the most, they go to Chandraloka or Indraloka or Pitraloka, but they have to come back to the planet Earth again. That is about an Ashtanga Yogi. What's the destination of a Bhakti Yogi? This is Lord Krishna is saying. Naite Shriti Parthajanan Yogi Muhyati Kaschana Tasma Sarveshu Kaleshu Yoga Yukto Bhavarjuna. Final words of Bhagavan in the 8th chapter. Partha, you have heard this, right? All this Ashtanga Yoga and what they practice, yeah? Naiti Shriti Parthajanan Yogi Muhyati Kaschana. A devotee knows about all this, these different paths and different yogas. They know these paths, but Yogi Muhyati Kaschana, the devotee is not bewildered. Tasmat Sarveshu Kaleshu Yoga Yukto Bhavarjuna. That's why always be fixed in the devotional service, Bhavarjuna. And Tasma Sarveshu Kaleshu Yoga Yukto Bhavarjuna. Why like that? Because Lord Krishna said it in the very beginning, right? Always fixed in the devotional service. What happens? Anta kaleva mameva smaran muktva kalevaram. In this way, when one is always fixed in the thought of the Lord in devotional service, then they would attain Krishna at the time of birth, at the time of death, very easily. So this is how Lord Krishna explains the quitting of the body by an Ashtanga Yogi and by Bhakti Yogi, and the chances of success and no success in Ashtanga Yoga, and the guaranteed success in Bhakti Yoga, and how it is easier for a Bhakti Yogi to attain Krishna. And finally, Lord glorifies Bhakti. Vedeshu yajneshu tapassu chaivam daneshu yat punya phalam pratishtam atyeti tat sarvam idam viditva yogi param sthanam upaiti chatyam. Vedeshu yajneshu tapassu chaiva daneshu yat punya phalam pratishtam. It could be all the fruits of Vedeshu, the Vedic knowledge, Yajneshu, the sacrifices, tapas, the tapas, different tapasyas, Daneshu, the charity. The fruit of all these activities, Atyeti tat sarvam idam vititva, yogi param sthanam upaiti chadyam. A Bhakti Yogi gets the fruit of all these activities by default. He surpasses the results of all these activities. And he attains the eternal abode. Yogim param sthanam upaiti cha adyam. So that's the potency of Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti Yoga, where the Bhakta thinks of Bhagavan so dearly, constantly, and depends on him, and is engaged in the loving service. Tatsmat sarveshu kaleshu, at all times. So that Bhakti Yogi, he surpasses the results of all the other processes and enters the abode of the Lord after quitting the body. So this is Sri Bhagavan Vacha in the 8th chapter. So now we'll summarize what we have heard. So Lord Krishna explains about what the terms that he has introduced in the 7th chapter. Who is Adi Daiva, Adi Yajna, Adi Daivam, Adi Yajnam, and Adi Atma, Adi Bhutam, Karma, Brahman. So the Lord first explains this, each one of them, and then he details about Prayana Kale. Even before this, we heard, right, in the connection between the 7th and 8th chapters, that for us to actually remember the Lord, even at the time of the death, means our attachment to the Lord every day is an opportunity for us to revive our relationship with the Lord, for the attachment of the Lord in loving service. And this very same attachment comes to our rescue during the challenging times. Very same loving attachment to the Lord comes to our rescue during the challenging times, and the most difficult time is when quitting the body. That we have heard, the first one. And the second one was about understanding the terminology of each one of these, as Lord explained. And there we heard about how only with the inspiration of the Lord that any inspiration from within is only because of the presence of the Lord. Any inspiration from within. And there we heard about the Daksha Yajna also, where the Lord enables everybody else to even say the prayer from within. So any prayer that comes from within, any inspiration that comes from within is only because of the presence and mercy of the Lord. That we have heard. And then about the Prayana Kale. What happens at the time of death? Whatever one thinks at the time of the death, whatever one is attached to at the time of death, that's what he would get in the next birth. And what to do in order to attain Lord Krishna or go to Lord Krishna's abode? That is to think of him. Mam eva smaran muktva kalevaram. So think one who is absorbed in the thoughts of Lord Krishna at the time of death will be able to go to Lord Krishna's planet, attain Lord Krishna. For that, what should one do? Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mamanusmarana yudhyacha. For that to happen at the time of death, every day, abhyasa of thinking of the Lord within and doing for the Lord outside. In this way, abhyasa, Lord Krishna is saying, when one practices like that, then at the final moment, then they will be able to think of me and come to me. And in that context, we also heard about Anuchintayan. How following the footsteps of the great souls is the way even to know how to think of the Lord, what to think of the Lord constantly when the modes are bombarding. So following the footsteps of the great souls, pure souls, thinking of the Lord and serving the Lord. In this way, one can attain the Lord at the time of death. After that, we heard about the comparison of Dhyana Yoga and Bhakti Yoga. How Dhyana Yogi thinks of the Lord. Yes, that is all true, but kind of generalized, a vague description of the Lord. And then mechanical process that they adopt. There we heard about Bhakti Yoga. How Bhakti Yogi thinks about the Lord so intimately and is actually present with the Lord. Because Sharanagata Bhakta Mukhya Lakshana, to depend on the Lord, to depend on the holy name, to depend on the Lord at all times, is the chief characteristic of bhakti. So in this way, the devotee is actually present with the Lord in the thoughts of Sharanagati. That is how a bhakti yogi thinks of the Lord and is present with the Lord. While the Ashtanga yogi has to do all this mechanical process to attain his goal, in bhakti, the purpose and the goal is the same. It is with Krishna for Krishna that we have heard. Yeah. And then Lord Krishna, he's explaining about the material world and spiritual world. And there we heard the contrast, how the spiritual world is like an effulgent sun in the background of this dark sky of this material world. That everybody else had to take rebirth other than who comes to the abode of the Lord. So how to come to the abode of the Lord? Purushassa Parapartha Bhaktyalapyastu Ananya through Ananya Bhakti. Undeviated Ananya Bhakti. What would attain the abode of the Lord? That's all, dear devotees. Yeah. And how a Bhakti yogi has the results that is surpassing all the results of the other processes, and how an Ananya Bhakta attains the eternal abode. Ananya Bhakta. All right, dear devotees. So that's about the 8th chapter. We'll pause here. Thank you all. Now it's all yours. I see the hands already. Veda, Renu, Madhava, Akshaj, and Krish. Yes, please, beta. Go ahead. Veda and Renu.
Hi, Krishna Mataji. The class was amazing. One point I really liked from the class was how Arjuna said, at the time of death, how do we remember you? And Krishna gave an amazing answer and said that at the time of death, if you remember me, then you will surely attain me. And whatever state you remember when you quit your body, that's the state you're going to be in your next life. And if you think about Krishna at the end of your life, then you will attain Krishna without fail. And in the 8th chapter, my favorite sloka is Yam Yam Vapi Smaran Bhavam Tyajatyante Kalevaram Tam Tam Me Vaiti Kaunteya Sada Tad Bhava Bhavitaha.
Yes.
And one more thing I liked was how you said undeviated Nitya Krishna Smarana. So when you should always focusly think about Krishna and not get deviated, and always have focus on Krishna when you quit your body, so it will help you to reach Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you, beta. Thank you. You children are amazing. Yes, beta. Thank you. Yeah. Renu, Veda, you want to sing?
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hari bolna na.
That was amazing.
Mhm.
The point I liked was Krishna said that anyone who at the time of death leaves his body remembering me, he will come to me, and whatever one remembers at death, that determines what body he will have in the next life. Therefore, O Arjuna, you should always think of me. At the same time, you should do your prescribed duties and fight. And your mind should always be fixed upon Krishna. So then you can reach Krishna by practicing to always think of Krishna. That by practicing to always think of Krishna, by being omniscient and beginningless and control of everything, and then you can attain Krishna.
Yeah, by knowing Krishna as omniscient, that he is the controller and he is the beginningless. Yes, beta. Very nice.
And I also like the point, Mataji, where Krishna says that the material world and spiritual world, how the material world is full of it's a temporary place of misery and repeated birth and death, and but the spiritual world is like it's eternal, supreme, and never destroyed, and it's the highest place. And if you go there, you never return back to the material world.
Yeah. Yes. Awesome, beta. Once we go there, we never return. Yeah.
Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you, beta. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, thank you. That corresponds to the stage of bhava and yeah, at least the bhava in our bhakti. But yes, beta, thank you, Veda, Renu. And Madhava.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Thank you for the amazing class.
Thank
Two points that really stood out to me was that like you should thinking about the Lord inside and doing service for the Lord on the outside, and that this is done by our sadhana bhakti, and that strength comes from Guru. And then another point I really liked was that you should follow in the footsteps of great souls in serving and thinking of the Lord. Hare Krishna.
Awesome. Madhava, how old are you, beta?
13.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna, beta. Thank you. Thank you. Akshaj?
Hare Krishna Mataji, thank
Hare
you for the
Bol.
amazing class.
Yes, yes, beta, go ahead. Yes, thank you.
So one point I really liked was that Krishna says that at the time of death we need to remember him, and to remember him we need to practice bhakti and we have to remember him all the time because we don't know what our time of death is, and so to make it easier, Krishna just gives us the answer, and we should just remember Krishna as the controller of everything, beginningless, maintainer of everything, and like there, he just has unlimited forms, unlimited names, anything that can describe him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, you're right. Very nice, beta. Akshaj, yes, yes, yes. Thank you, Akshaj. Yeah. Krish? Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna, beta.
Thank you for this class. It was great.
Wasn't it amazing? Everybody said amazing, Krishna.
It was more than amazing.
All right, beta, please go ahead.
um so what I really like about the class, the best point I really liked, and 12 class was great, but the best point I would say would be that we need to think of Krishna, and we should see Krishna in everything. And then we were saying about how if we think of Krishna all the time, we'll automatically think about Krishna at the time of death, and then we'll go back to Krishna. But then we see all the pure devotees, they're thinking of Krishna all the time, but they don't wish to get liberated.
I'll say that again. They are thinking of Krishna all the time.
They think of Krishna all the time, but they don't wish to get liberated.
They don't?
They don't wish to go back to Godhead. They want to serve Krishna, but they want to stay in His will.
Yeah. Yeah,
They
they
want
think of,
they just do it out of the free will. We need to think about Krishna, see Krishna and everything. Krishna's helping us also in the Bhagavad Gita by giving us all of those examples. He's the taste in water. He's the creator of everything. He's also Vishwaroop. You see that, and in the Bhagavatam we also see that all of those descriptions, and that's just helping us to see Krishna all the time. And just taste in water, we the how many times we see water, drink water, and just water is all around us. And then by that we get to remember Krishna as well.
yes, beta. True.
You were saying, sorry?
No, I said this is wonderful. Yes, you are right.
Yes.
Yeah.
When you think about Krishna, and then getting liberated is a side thing.
Mm, mm,
Like
yeah.
remembering Krishna is the main thing. Remembering and serving him.
Yes, 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 yes. Thank you. Thank you, Beta. It's very nice hearing from you all. Thank you.
Hare Krishna,
Yeah.
Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
I had one question, kind of like a doubt that
Yes, please.
I'm seeking clarity. Somehow this chapter, I always, this Ashtanga Yogi, that process, right?
Mhm.
There is, so the way you explained it, you said they go to the spiritual planet. And I've always wondered, like, without, so the Ashtanga Yogi does not have a mood of service, is not thinking of service, or, like what we say, Anugatya Seva, right?
Yeah.
So what do what do they do? Like it's a little like I'm not able to understand it like that. When I can understand the people that want to merge with the Brahman and that kind of a thing, but this Ashtanga Yoga is more for what kind of a practice was it? Was it to go? They then develop a mood to serve the Lord when they are what
Not
was?
necessarily. Ashtanga Yoga is just a process. Like, it depends on the desire for Dhritarashtra. When he quit, he went with Gandhari. So Dhritarashtra, he did Ashtanga Yoga. And it's a clearly detailed explanation was there in Srimad Bhagavatam. And then he merged into Brahman. He cannot go to spiritual world because he didn't have any attachment to the form of the Lord or mood of service. So he could merge in the Brahman.
Right.
That is Dhritarashtra. But when we hear the example of Kardama Muni and Prithu Maharaj, they also did Ashtanga Yoga. But they were so much attached to Paramatma that they had love of God that the tears would roll down the cheeks. So when they quit the body, with that much attachment to Lord Vishnu in the heart, they go to Vaikuntha to serve the Lord there.
I see. Okay. Thank you. And these other the other yogis who don't have that mode of service, what happens to them? Where do they go? And do they stay in that place or do they come back again?
Yeah, Bhagavatam says, Aruchakritena param padam tat patanti ado. Yasmat, because they don't have the attachment to the service of the lotus feet of the Lord. They would fall down. They would fall down from Brahmajyoti. They will have to because they don't have the attachment to the lotus feet of the Lord. And that's why Srila Prabhupada, I think, he explains in the purport, they come back to this world, and then because they don't have attachment to the service of the Lord, they'll continue their charitable work here.
Right. Okay, got it.
In other words, they're also kind of great souls in the sense, not really caught up in the modes so much, but they're not really great souls because they have no attachment for Krishna.
Got it. Yes.
Yeah, and I also heard that these souls, yes, in one purport it is said that they would come back and do this charity work, but I've also heard that they would come back and take the births of trees because they're trees, just trees.
Wow.
Avritta Chetana, because there's conscious is so much of a jada. Not affected by the modes, but there is no attachment to the Lord. Like that. So I've heard both of them.
Wow.
In any case, they have to come back.
That makes sense. Thank you. That clarifies it. Thank you so much.
Divyam brother Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji, my pranams to you. Thank you for the amazing class, Mataji.
The formality should continue at least for today. We'll take it. Yes, please.
Mataji, I also have a question, please. Like the reason why we are here, right? That we were at some point of time with Krishna and then had that envy wanted to enjoy separately from him, and that's why we are here. Is that right, Mataji?
That's the most complicated question. That is the answer, simplest answer, yes. Simplest answer, yeah.
But then we also hear, Mataji, like, when you are there, everybody is so Krishnamay. They cannot think of anything other than Krishna.
How can they
So
come?
how do we understand that, Mataji? Like here also we heard today, like once you go to the spiritual world, you don't come back.
Yes.
So how are we here?
So the second one is the right one. The first one is, when somebody is just coming to get to know the basic beginners, to explain, because they'll not be able to understand much, then a gist of that is given because you are envious of Krishna. But the truth is that Yadhama, whoever comes to my abode, they will not come back to this material world. That is the truth, the tattva. So the answer based on the tattva is we are Jiva tattva. We are in Tatastha Shakti. This is given in Jaiva Dharma. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains. So it's not that we were with Krishna. We are Jiva Shakti, Tatastha Shakti. We have a potential to be with the Lord in the spiritual world, but not that we were in the spiritual world and we have fallen here. And the example is like this. Banyan seed has the potential to become a big banyan tree. Like that, we are more like banyan seeds. We were not in the spiritual realm yet, but we have a potential to be in the spiritual realm because we are Tatastha Shaktis. Jiva. Jiva is a Tatastha Shakti. But those souls that are Nitya Siddhas, the eternal associates of the Lord, Nitya Siddhas, they were never in this material world. So they were always present in the spiritual world. So those are Nitya Siddhas. Okay? Nitya Siddhas are always present in the spiritual world, associates of the Lord. They are actually from Sandhini Shakti. They're not the Tatastha Shaktis. They are Sandhini Shakti. And those souls that are there in the spiritual world, but choose to come here for a purpose, to redeem, reclaim us, to take us back to the spiritual realm, they are also Nitya Siddhas. So their coming here is not falling into this material world. They have complete control over the modes. They come here for a purpose to take us back. So those are also purified souls. But most of us here, we were not in the spiritual realm with Krishna, with an established relationship. And that's not the case. But the potential is there. And the seed of Krishna Prema is also there within us. So it has to be germinated and just have to grow big. So going to the spiritual realm.
So Tathastha Shakti is the Jiva.
All of them. Jivas, yeah.
So Mataji, then we also hear that soul has a nature and has that eternal relationship with the Lord that gets revealed in higher stages of bhakti. So what is that, Mataji?
Yeah,
then?
that's what it is. As I mentioned, we are like a seed, banyan seed. There is no tree yet. The potential is there. So from the banyan seed, a banyan tree would come out eventually. So from us, as we go through this purificatory process, the soul would take up the spiritual form and then will engage in the service of the Lord. Like a banyan tree will come out of a banyan seed. There is no banyan tree yet. So we don't have a spiritual form yet. But with this purification process, slowly our spiritual body develops, and then we revive our relationship with Krishna. And as it completely develops at the stage of Bhava Prema, then when we quit the body, then we get the Vastu Siddhi, then we'll have darshan of Bhagavan. we haven't seen Krishna yet. Not us, the Tatastha Shakti. We didn't have the Vastu Siddhi yet. But we have the potential. We will see. We will see Krishna. We will have a spiritual form. It is in the process of development. Like the banyan tree is in the process of germinating and becoming a tree.
What is Vastu Siddhi, Mataji?
Vastu is here Lord Krishna. Siddhi is attaining. Attaining Lord Krishna means after leaving this body, when we take birth in a Bhauma Vrindavana, wherever Lord is having his pastimes, then we will actually see Krishna, like we are reading in Srimad Bhagavatam, that the gopis see Krishna as Krishna is singing the flute and taking the cows to the forest. Then the gopis see Krishna. They come to Krishna. So that is Vastu Siddhi. Vastu is the object, the Supreme Lord there. Siddhi is attaining the Supreme Lord, attaining the association of the Supreme Lord, attaining the service of the Supreme Lord.
Okay, Mataji, one more question in the same context, please.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I understand that banyan tree example that you are giving, but like we also hear, right, that so naturally is there a relationship, like they say, right, every soul is in different rasa with Bhagwan,
Right.
Dasya Sakha. So that's what we hear, right, that there is, and that's what you have to revive. So now that we hear that there was never one, now, so that is that statement also, then is there more to it than what we have heard, or
the relationship is revived, and at the stage of ruchi asakti, like that, with the ragatmika bhakta, the guidance that we get there, then it is established there. It is established there. So is there an innate rasa, a fixed rasa within us? Not to the jiva souls that haven't gone, that have not gone there yet. That's my understanding. But at the stage of anishta, at the stage of ruchi and asakti, then that will be introduced and is given. First, the spiritual purification has to happen. And when the spiritual body is forming, and then that relationship, which we didn't have yet, that is introduced and is given. That is for us.
okay, Mataji, we lost you in between, but I think how I understood is like there is not an innate nature, but at higher stages of bhakti that is established.
Yes,
that
a specific mellow at the higher stages. Yes.
Okay, Mataji. Thank you so much, Mataji.
Yeah, these details would be not even in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, not even in Madhurya Kadam. This is, I'm giving you the information from what I have heard, but I have to look for a source where there is detailed information about this, and I will try to share more when I get more of it.
Thank you so much, Mataji.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
All right, dear devotees. Okay.
Thank you so much for being that nice gardener that is taking care of, with all of us as little seeds and our bhakti, and fertilizing it at morning and evening, taking the weeds out, just making sure that it sprouts. Thank you so much.
Vrindarani Mataji, your kindness is so much appreciated. I am very much privileged to be in all of your sincere association, but your kindness is very much appreciated. Vrindarani Mataji. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Right. So, dear devotees, honoring all of your association, Vancha Kalpatarupyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। श्रीमद् भगवत गीता की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय, समवेत भक्त वृंद की जय। हरे कृष्ण।
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Thank you.
Thank you,
Hare
Mataji.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Mataji. Hare Krishna.